Hey, welcome to Amplified Silence. I'm Kyle Robinson. I'm the creator of the Amplified Silence podcast, where we highlight the largely invisible problem of excessive incarceration of rehabilitated individuals at the expense of society and humanity. And I'm also the executive director of the Adolescent Redemptive and Restorative Program. So what you're about to see is an interview from the Amplified Silence meetup, our weekly Wednesday, 7 o'clock. Group where we discuss issues around incarceration, rehabilitation, and deterrence. We always feature currently and formerly incarcerated individuals, as well as just concerned citizens or family members of said people. And it really takes everybody. I just want to say thanks for coming out and supporting the group. And in this particular meetup, we had an unexpected interview, and that's what I want to bring you today. Hopefully I'll get the full episode up today or tomorrow, but I just wanted to bring you this interview right now. It's with a man named Leo Hylton. He's incarcerated in Maine, and I'm going to let him speak for himself because this production here is actually about him. So other than that, I just want to say thank you again from Amplified Silence. Thank you, Linda Marie Miller, Kathy Blunt, everyone doing work behind the scenes to help keep Amplified Silence running. Please support, go to Venmo or GoFundMe. It's Amplified Silence at either one. Show your support and subscribe, share. That's really important. Thank you again for watching, and in solidarity, I'm Kyle Robinson. This is Amplified Silence.
Yes, I do. Good evening.
Hi, Leo.
Good evening, Mr. Hylton. I haven't met you yet, but I'm thrilled to see that you've popped up. I'm a big fan and supporter of yours. I've been following your story for a while. I can't even tell you who put me in touch with it, but it's an honor to have you in our meeting. I know what a treat you are, and you if no one else does. One of the things that if I could get you to speak to it a little bit, and the tone of tonight's meeting, the theme is misconceptions about prison. I don't know if those can really be worked in, but those are the ball fields we're playing in. And again, thanks for making it, man. And I'm Kyle Robinson.
Nice to officially meet you. And thanks for putting me directly on the spot. So a big misconception about people in prison is that we don't feel pain, right? That we don't hurt, that we don't have the same needs as every other full citizen of this country. And that's another thing, is that there's this perception that we are also somehow simultaneously citizens and not, right? That we have rights, but we don't. And so for me, it's been a very long trauma healing journey, and that has really helped me see through my healing that, and again, healing is a lifelong journey, right? But coming to this point of healing and being able to understand and articulate the traumas, plural and cumulative, that I endured growing up and going through the foster care system, and then why so rapidly I transitioned from the foster system to the prison system, and then getting lost in the lies of trying to protect myself from this system that I found myself within. That as I came to heal and grow and come to understand myself better, I also came to be able to understand why people do the things that they do, sometimes the terrible things that they do, that we do, right? Myself included, and be able to sit in my own darkness long enough to be able to understand myself and understand the whys, so that as I was able to do that, I also grew in my ability to be able to sit with others in their darkness, to let them know that they are not alone, right? Because what continues to drive us deeper into those darknesses until eventually it takes our lives is that we feel so very desperately alone in that darkness, right? Until somebody who has been there can come and sit and say, I've been there. There is nothing that you can say to me. There's nothing that you have done that can get me to bat an eyelash, right? That how as dark as you've gone, as messed up as you felt, I've been there and I've felt that. So please know you're not alone in that. And when you're able to do this, it develops, I've been able to develop a level of agency that I'm not supposed to be allowed to experience while also incarcerated. Right, that's another thing. Is that because I'm incarcerated, I'm not supposed to have agency. Right, I'm not supposed to be able to work with my captors in order to be able to benefit the lives of the people around me. That I cannot be in partnership with them, and that is something that I've pushed back on people very close to me when they have tried to tell me that no, you can't call them that, you can't be in this type of relationship with them because of the structural dynamics. Yet what that does is strip me further of that agency and of that healing that I've been able to attain.
Let me jump in there with another question, and I want to get towards opening it up to everybody. I don't know how much time that you have with us, if you're on a 15-minute call or if you locked in for the meeting with us.
I'm here till the 8:30 end of it, I guess.
Okay, good. Cool. So one of the things that I've got to ask you about, what you just expressed about human nature and just general behavior and human reaction to the traumatic experience of prison. It says a lot about your awareness of human nature. Given that and the reality of the perceptions that people have about prisoners, including those in authority, so much so that I have to think very cautiously, as I word this question. But do you, let me ask you this. Let me put it like this. How successful do you see yourself being able to be at encouraging change and growth in the community around you by expressing the gentle, compassionate love that that humans need, that is also discouraged in prison? And is that interrupted with by officers or anything, or schools or anyone, as people see you being successful?
So by my approach, generally restorative and healing focused, I've been able to be successful in ways that those who have come before me, that I've been watching for the last 14 years and learning from their successes and failures. By taking this approach, I've been able to succeed where others have failed. And it's not me, right? It's not just me. I've had so many people that have been instrumental in helping me be effective in these ways, right? That without them, I am not. I'm a big believer in Ubuntu and how my existence is because yours exists, right? That I'm only here because you are. And, living and cultivating and embracing community in a way that is not permitted in carceral spaces, which leads to the pushback, because it is very real. And even in the people with whom I partner who do good work and who support me in that good work, but when I push a little too hard, too far, or too fast, I'm very quickly reminded of the power imbalance, right? The structures that I'm forced to work within, and how partnerships are a funny thing, right? That I refuse to allow myself to be stripped of the agency, to be denied the ability to partner with whom I choose. Yet I also clearly acknowledge that because of the structural imbalance, the power imbalance that exists, the partnership will never be equal, right? So I can be in partnership and I own the agency of being able to partner with them, but the partnership will never be equal. right? They will still be my captors. They will still have the power to do with me what they will. Oh, you're muted.
Appreciate it. May I ask, branching out from that thought right there, how does that affect your relationships? I mean, you got a hell of a following. I wish it was doubled, but you got a hell of a following. You got a lot of people who know who you are. And my experience of being in prison is that every person you meet, that person might be, I mean, you got to treat them like they're your only friend to some degree. You can't afford to lose nobody. As everyone comes in and out, there's a breath of hope that arrives or dies with people. Can you give any advice, any supportive counsel to people who are advocates like us, who are like walking this journey daily and kind of grieving that people we care about may never come home?
Know and acknowledge your limitations is a very important piece of this, where we like to think that we can do more than we can, and that can lead us to making promises that we can't keep. So yes, every person who does come through, everyone who shows up from the outside, who chooses to make time and to drive the distance, to actually show their face and show that they care, that is a powerful, powerful statement of humanity. And that's what gives me hope. And for people who are on the outside, who care, who want to do this work, be real about your limitations, not just with yourself, but with the people that you're working with, the people that you are walking with and seeking to assist in their journeys. Because that has made all of the difference in the longevity of my relationships with people on the outside, is how real they were able to be with themselves and they were able to be with me. Because even people who have wanted to be real with themselves haven't felt able to be real with me in that way of saying that I can only do so much. And when someone is not able to share that with me, then that limits my ability to connect with them, to be able to fully trust them. Because if I can't trust them to be open and vulnerable with me, then what else are they not, do they not feel able to share, right? So be open and understand that when you share that vulnerability, that is something that is very strongly advocated against by departments of correction and staff members and all that, because of manipulation and all that. But the flip side of that is the value that is placed on that level of trust, right? Don't be naive. Don't put yourself out there in ways that are dangerous for you, of whatever that is within the dynamic of the context within the relationship that you have. But when it comes down to your limitations, when it comes down to what you can and can't do, and who you are and who you are not, and what the relationship is and what it is not, I can tell you that the honesty with which you engage with people, that is where the value is. That is where the worth is. That is what we cherish most, is when people trust us, that we have the internal fortitude to be told the truth and to engage in truth and integrity. And that's another myth, is that people incarcerated don't have integrity, right? Whether there's only honor among thieves. No. What you may also know is that there are people on the inside who walk with a level of integrity that is unmatched by some of the people who are charged with correcting their errant behavior.
I love highlighting those people on Amplified Silence and meeting them. And unfortunately, there's such a shortage, and so few make it to have a platform or to get into some of the outlets that you have that have allowed you to promote. So I'm really grateful to you for representing them, because I think people can understand the important details of your situation. You were a child when you went to prison. You're nowhere near the same person who you were that day, and you're probably two different people beyond that. You probably changed twice over. let me, for the sake of balance of participation, let me open it up in case anyone else has questions, and we'll take a second for that, and if not, we'll go somewhere else. And I have extra questions on deck. And your questions don't have to be for Leo. Leo might want to break from walking into the meeting for the first time and being put on the spot for like 27 minutes straight. But he seems like he can put up with a lot of us. I don't know.
I have a question, but it's personally motivated.
Please, Cynthia, go ahead.
Well, first, let me say, oh,
Hey, Cynthia, say that again. There was a little audio. There was a little something. I missed a little piece of what you said. Say that again.
oh my God, you're so shiny. Just look at you. How shiny you are. Blinding, scintillating. I am so grateful to meet you. Not that everybody here isn't shiny, but you in particular are very shiny. And I'm going to follow that up with, hey man, you want to do my show?
So Cynthia has a podcast called Love Archie. I should have thrown it out there before I called them. Cynthia has a podcast in which she highlights people who are doing exceptional things in the world to change cultures and to change the world around them. And that's what she's talking about. And I would recommend that you go on her podcast.
And I know I seem a little like a half a bubble off level, but people seem to like that. So I have a following.
Absolutely.
Is it to your favor?
Yeah, no, I'll send you the email address to the warden here, and you can reach out. Because I need to get permission to do things like that. But yeah, I'd love to.
Could you share what's on the horizon for you? What you see maybe in your academic future or just in your professional future? And as you're following, is this a new thing now to actually envision a future and a career while you're inside?
Let me tell you that COVID and Zoom opened up my entire world. Before COVID, this was not a thing. And before Zoom, and even in the middle of Zoom, like I'm the exception among the exceptions within this facility. The level of access that I have to see a link for Zoom and say, hey, that looks interesting, let me hop on and see what's up. Like that's not a real thing.
You got the juice.
No, that's the relationship where, like, I've carried myself with a level of consistency and integrity for a number of years now. Like I came in when I was 18. I'm 32 years old now. I've been in this facility for 12 and a half years. And I've been working with the current warden since he started here as deputy warden. So throughout the last 4.5, almost 5 years that he's been here, we've been working together hand in hand on a number of projects. And I've shown myself and my character repeatedly where he knows that he can trust me to be able to click on these things and hop on and not say anything crazy.
How can we celebrate or acknowledge or support people like that who have the discretion and actually use it to promote caring people on the inside when so many are using their power to silence? Is that something we can do, or is that something that's interpersonally and has to be interpersonally acknowledged between those people and the prisoners that they can be fair to?
Well, after the election, we can be a little bit more public, but right now, even good work. One thing that I'm constantly being cautioned towards by systems actors is to do good work and do it in the dark. Right? Because even good work can be twisted as something wrong when it is connected to incarcerated people, right? That restorative justice efforts, opportunities for healing and transformation, and actual avenues to be able to contribute to our outside communities, that is all good things, right? When pulled into the realm of politics, then it's twisted and manipulated for the media as, look at these horrible people who now have access and they can reach out to their victims and do more terrible things that got them there in the first place. So how could you ever, ever, ever think of trusting someone who is incarcerated, an inmate, a prisoner, someone who is subhuman, to have a level of access to be able to engage with people in communities when they can't handle that, they can't do that. So like right now, it's very much, we're in an election year in Maine where every, like in the legislature, the Senate, and the governor's seat, like all the seats are up for grabs. So it's do good work, do it in the dark so it doesn't get used against us, where like we need leadership, in particular leadership in DOC, to remain. And in order to be able to keep doing this good work. And if there is too much attention around the good work that's being done that empowers incarcerated people, then that can be twisted as, oh, you're letting them run wild, you're way too far left, you need to be removed. And power and control needs to be reasserted, because there's no value in the courage that it takes for leadership to take a participatory approach to governance.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions on your mind?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that that's another misconception, you know, because a lot of people would think that being incarcerated, that you couldn't get that close to the warden to do certain things. You know what I'm saying? Considering, you know, the some of the violence that goes on in prison. You know, a lot of people wouldn't think that you could, you know, get to know a warden, but that's a misconception, because you can get to know a warden. You can get to know anybody that you want to get to know. It's just how you carry yourself when you get to know that person. And I want to say to you, brother, peace and blessings, man, and keep up the good work. It's a pleasure to meet you here. And I definitely want to reach out and be a part of what you got going on, because we are advocates and we are trying to, you know, get this mass incarceration thing under control. You know, right now it's out of control, and we gotta, you know, it's all over the world. And the things doing what we're doing now with having to be able to come together and talk to individuals that are incarcerated, to let other people know that they're not just, you know, savages. You know, you do get people to come in prison that feel like they gotta prove themselves and they gotta do certain things at a young age, but eventually you grow out of that. And I wanted to also answer that question that the sister Katie said of how do you come back out into society and cope. You know, first you gotta have some kind of spiritual based mind. You know, you gotta know that you're not doing this by yourself. You know, so a lot of praying, a lot of meditating, and a lot of doing what you said you're gonna do helps you come back out into society.
So speaking of that, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just saying thank you.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say that the working relationship with the warden indicates, and your continued ability to do things like this indicates an amount of consistency on your part that I think a lot of people believe is beyond people that are incarcerated achieving or measuring up to. Can you tell us what that has been like? Because you have to grow into this person who you were very quickly when you came, and that's a hell of an education. It's going to accelerate you in some ways, and it can stunt you in some ways. What has that process been like, your transformation? Let us hear that you just are not the same person by hearing how you change. I can hear, I know you're not the same person.
I now have a language to articulate the ineffable, right? I grew up very much in an emotionally impoverished home where I did not know how to articulate abuse or harm or sadness or pain, because that was not modeled for me by my father. It was, you could either be content, happy, or have a brief bout of sadness, but it needed to pass quickly. So when it came to anger or hurt or pain or confusion, you know, there was no model for how to deal with that. And so the abuse grew until I left home at 10 in favor of foster care. I ran away so hard that eventually my mom realized that I was going to kill myself in these efforts. And she gave me up to the state to be a foster kid. And then, so from 10 to 18, I was a foster child. Turned 18, was just suddenly free, and didn't know what to do with it in the aftermath of both my foster mother and my biological father dying 1 year apart, right? So my biological father died March 19th of 2008 on the 1 year anniversary of my foster mother's death. And I was there when she had a massive heart attack, and I was there when he took his last breath. And I had no way of processing the traumas that brought into my life. So I lost myself in the drinking and the drugs and the women and the parties.
And everything you been taught before that in your childhood and the abusive nature was to suppress, was not to engage these feelings. Okay.
Yes, suppress it. It
so
does not exist.
Coping mechanisms like drinking, drugs.
Yeah, I was running from it. I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to move through it, so I ran from it in any way that I could. And that very rapid. Go ahead.
Who showed you something different?
So that happened after I got to prison. And that's kind of where I was heading, is that through my 22 months in county, I was learning how to lie, learning how to manipulate the system, learning how to craft a story around the evidence against me rather than wanting what I initially wanted to do, which was tell the truth. And what I did do initially was tell the truth to the police, and then found I needed to protect myself against the system. And then God used a man of faith, Ephraim Keith Bennett, he career military man, former prize fighter with boxing, business owner. He just came and was exactly what I needed when I got out of SEG finally. And he showed me that I wasn't as tough as I thought I was. I wasn't as smart as I thought I was. I wasn't as bad as I thought I was. And that I needed to heal, that I was stuck and trapped in a cycle of unforgiveness that was going to lead me nowhere but misery and eventually death. So he came along and then got me into programs, got me growing, got me healing, got me into the Word of God, and not in the really soft, hey, let's go to church and sing Kumbaya, but we're worshiping the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus. It was, no, this is the Jesus of Scripture, who was followed by fishermen, who was radical, who spoke truth and lived truth, and is real. So, and challenging me to search the Scripture myself. And then he was followed by Candace Powell, who was and is the executive director of the Maine Hospice Council. And she took all of his tough love and met me with this soft love, and showing me how to be rounded in my approach and my embrace of myself and my embrace of others. So again, that modeling that I had been deprived for the majority of my life was suddenly shown to me in very opposite ways, but that came together to refine and.
I appreciate the story. I love it. I have a similar experience of having to find one's own mentors post-prison and kind of being hamstrung until you do. It's a tricky thing to find, because it can't just be people that are more successful to you. It takes an emotional maturity and an exposure to consider the needs that someone may have getting out. Does anyone have anything? We've got 13 minutes left. I don't want to hold a captive audience, especially in this kind of work. I want to leave it open for anyone to comment, though, if they have something, or if you have questions about amplified silence. This goes for everybody. I'm happy to field questions.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a question for Leo, actually. It's something that I guess crossed my mind as you were talking and talking about working with the warden and partnering with COs and the other individuals of that nature to have impact on the world outside. Has that ever made you a target for other people to see what you're doing and have people lash out at you in one way or another out of some kind of resentment or thinking that you're being, say, like a pet of the system or something like that?
I immediately think of I almost called it a conversation, but it was very much an accusation of someone who I had been around for almost a decade at the time, actually not longer than that, over a decade. And he asked me straight up, he said, "Do you have any idea what you're doing?" This is an older gentleman who I've known, who I've worked with, who I've lived in the same housing unit with, who has encouraged me and complimented me on my growth and all that. And then to be sitting with him and him telling me that I was blind, that I was being used, that I was a pawn of the system, and couldn't see it. And really, you know, I've always encouraged people to be real with me, to let them know that I'm open for whatever type of conversation. But yes, there is still a perception by people who don't know me that because I am able to do these things, that because I'm in these meetings and because I'm teaching and because I'm in grad school and because I'm doing all these things, that history has said that when you are able to do these things, it's because you're telling on somebody. It's because you're the lapdog. It's because you're a yes man to the administration. Mm-hmm. So there's an inability to conceptualize or see me in a way other than that, unless you really know me and have the courage to come and ask the question. Because he was very quickly met with, how I started here of, listen, I know who I am. I know what I'm doing. I have the agency to be able to engage in this way because I've spent the last X amount of years of my life learning from the failures of others and learning from the harm that was perpetuated by others when they have abused and they become selfish with the access that they have, right? So that is who I refuse to become. I will not allow myself to become a yes man, to become a lapdog, because that is what the system says must happen. That is what I cannot, will not allow.
And you've actively, even with your platform and your ability to speak out and likely attract support and mercy for yourself individually, you have advocated as hard as any prisoner I know for the rights of prisoners and for people, for people to have freer access to education and better conditions. It low-key pisses me off to hear someone say that, even to hear it repeated in hearsay, because I recognize just how much courage and discipline it takes to not, and the longer you do it, just the longer you extend that duration of not telling people what the fuck is on your mind or what it really is, or containing the emergency that you are in, that could be a lifelong emergency, amongst people who don't understand or who just may be having a bad day or not able to conceptualize the 4D chess that you're playing, not in a manipulative way, but you recognize that the officers, the guards, they have trauma too. They're coming from fucked up backgrounds, coming into this place, working with people who have fucked up backgrounds. And it's a hell of it's a very complicated issue. And I appreciate the mental agility that you display to navigate it. So we've got 8 minutes left. Does anyone have questions? I'd like to know personally, by the way, how we can follow or support you.
So I just put a couple links in the chat. The first is my peer-reviewed article, Trauma, Spirituality, and Healing, a journey through the lens of an incarcerated person. That is a depersonalized story, account of my own story as Joseph, backed up, so really showing the foundation in literature around trauma and spirituality and trauma healing that largely excludes incarcerated people. So that's to my educational goals. I'm currently seeking permission to apply for a doctoral program that focuses on the trauma healing and spiritual journeys of people who have both inflicted trauma on others and experienced trauma. And I also put a link to my columns. I write a monthly column in the publication Mainer, published out of Portland, Maine, where I speak about the power of humanity in carceral spaces and the existence of humanity, of community, of care, of love within and between the people who are incarcerated and from the inside to the outside. So I'm also on LinkedIn. So long as I continue to have permission to do so, I'm on LinkedIn and trying to build support for good work, not just, and that's the thing, you mentioned it, Kyle, right? It's not about me. I advocate for others because it's not about me, right? Like my growth and my healing is in service to others. It is only through serving others and through seeing the need in others that I'm able to meet my own needs. So that there needs to be an other focus in this work. And that's what I stand for. That's what I post about. So yeah, if you can follow that, and I'll pull up the link here so you can have that as well. But follow me, connect, and uplift the work, share it out, because there is so much work that needs to be done around restorative justice, transformative justice, abolition of the prison industrial complex, building opportunities for restoration in order to make abolition safely possible. It's not about just tearing down what is, it is about building what can be and what needs to be. And that is community, that is accountability and healing focused opportunities in community to hold people accountable in a way that centers love and community. Stop pulling people out of their communities and throwing them away regardless of age. Keep them in their communities, keep us in our communities, and hold us accountable to the obligations that we create by harming people around us. Let us actively participate in repairing the harm that we cause, because that's the only true accountability. Punishment is a passive process, and that is the only process that currently exists. In order for there to be true accountability, we need to be held accountable to the people and to the communities that in which we created harm, so that we can actually participate actively in the repair process, because that's the only way that we can grow and heal and actually pay our debt to society. Because right now I'm not paying my debt. Taxpayers are paying my debt. Other people who feed me and clothe me and keep me trapped here, that is not me paying my debt to society. Paying my debt is when I'm able to teach outside, is when I'm able to speak to people outside and let them know that there is heart, there is humanity, there is care within people on the inside. And those of us who have created the greatest harm in our communities are most passionate about creating healing, right? So yes, all of that.
Probably most well positioned also to inspire others to do the same, particularly high risk youth who might be, heading down that path.
Thank you.
I'm a little surprised because no one's asked a question. Well, no one's asked one question, and that question that I was thinking is, well, why are you in prison? What did you do? What was your crime? And I am more interested in the fact that no one's raised their hand and asked that question, as the version of you that you presented to your character quite sufficient. So I'm going to get ready to wrap it up here. If anyone has any closing words, feel free to. I'll leave the room running for about another 60 seconds. My number's in the chat. Everyone, please feel free to contact me if you want to get involved or engage with Amplified Silence, if you want to support, if you want to come on and help me help more people. There's always a need, especially with podcasters and people who can keep people's stories out long-term interactively and show their growth. But thanks again for coming to Amplified Silence, where we highlight the largely invisible problem of the excessive incarceration of clearly rehabilitated individuals at the expense of society and humanity.